What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Now it's time for a lumberjack match as Drew McIntyre tries to get his hands on the slippery Sami Zayn. Join us now as we look at the latest edition of the Blue brand, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including a WWE Hall of Famer returning, a new stable on Smackdown, Randy Orton breaks character dancing, what you guys didn't get to see after Smackdown, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. As always, we won't recap the matches, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Sami the Stooge. Is there anything that Sami Zayn isn't good at? Well, last night's backstage segment where SmackDown's master strategist placed a seed of discontent in the always angry Roman Reigns' head was well executed. Zayn's not-so-subtle maneuverings to convince Roman Reigns that Drew McIntyre was trash-talking Roman's family was a great way to show just what a weasel Zayn is, and how he'll try anything to get the advantage on an opponent. Number 2, good matches saved the show. Last night's SmackDown featured a number of good matches which helped salvage an otherwise underwhelming show. Riddle vs Jey Uso, Xavier Woods vs Butch, and Madcap Moss vs Angel Garza were all entertaining bouts that at the very least satisfied fans looking for something to keep them tuned to last night's show. Even Gunther's squash over local talent had its moments. But whilst we're on the subject of Gunther, he did a sexy pin. Now the awesome Austrian must be watching Rhea Ripley's recent sexy pins, as Gunther had one of his own against his hapless opponent Teddy Goods. The WWE seem to be taking their time with building Gunther up on the main roster, so why shouldn't they have some fun while he's waiting? But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, a futile finish. Last night's main event was awful, and despite the WWE's obvious intent to build Drew McIntyre vs Roman Reigns off the program between the Scottish Warrior and Zayn, the futile finish of Zayn escaping a lumberjack match stunk SmackDown up. Not since 2019's Hell in a Cell event have fans witnessed such a wonky end to a match. It's long been established that Sami is a sneaky snake, but should the wrestler being set up for a main event program against Roman Reigns really have this much trouble taking care of Zayn? Number 2, dropping Shinsuke. What the hell was the point to Roman Reigns beating Shinsuke down on the post-WrestleMania SmackDown? While McIntyre vs Reigns is obviously bigger than Shinsuke vs Roman, who battled at last year's tribute to the Troop show, why bother shooting that segment? It made no sense, it had no payoff, which makes you wonder if the WWE has any idea what it's doing with Roman's booking. Assuming the rumors of Reigns being banged up after his Mania match with Brock were just that, well, rumors, why not have Roman wrestle Shinsuke on TV before Backlash? Did the head of a table just suddenly sign a Brock Lesnar-like deal where he wrestles like once a month? Number 3, Cole's clueless comment. I chalk up another clueless comment from Michael Cole, or probably in the earset of Vince McMahon, as a long-time announcer's comment that Jinder Mahal is trying to make a name for himself on the SmackDown brand made absolutely no sense given Mahal's nearly 6-month reign as WWE Champion. Surely this was a line that was fed to McMahon, but did he forget Mahal was champion just only a few years ago? Whatever the reason, it was a terrible way to treat the modern-day Maharaja, who should be doing more than being set up for a feud with Shanky. Number 3, bad news for Xia Li. It looks like Xia Li is a heel, as a wrestler who dubbed herself as the WWE's protector is now saying no one is worthy of her protection besides herself. Her heel turn last night was certainly unexpected, largely because fans have only seen her wrestle once since her December 2021 debut. Her heel turn is wrong on so many levels. First, there's the obvious lack of planning that went into her character, as the WWE hyped her as a cross between a manga hero and a wrestler for weeks before her debut, and after one in-ring appearance, she's now suddenly a villain? Second, it's a reminder that the WWE continues to have no long-term vision for the women's division undercard. Knowing the WWE's erratic booking, it could take months before fans see Xia Li, hopefully she won't be future endeavored, with no promise of her playing a babyface or heel. And number 4, 1 week of build-up to Backlash? The hell? Is the WWE really going up with 1 week of build-up for WrestleMania's Backlash headline match? Well, it sure looks that way, judging from the reports coming about the pre-taped SmackDown that airs on 22nd April. Thanks to @Rewinds on Twitter, who let us use this footage courtesy of him, who taped it last night, we can see that Roman and Drew had a brawl after the cameras went off. Okay, there is nothing wrong with this, as it is a way to build up Roman vs Drew, but why did they wait until a week before Backlash to start the build? Isn't this something that could have taken a lot longer and build to like even SummerSlam or even the Cardiff pay-per-view? Is it another case of the WWE feeling it doesn't need to build up its premium events because fans are happy just to see Roman demolish another opponent? Are his matches just too predictable that we know Roman is going to win? Now, part of the problem is that WWE haven't figured out how to book an undisputed champion. More than likely, the WWE is just going to be on autopilot with Roman until SummerSlam. Now, there was nothing downright ugly, which is somewhat surprising as Smackdown was a middle-of-the-road mess, which was saved by some good matches, but otherwise forgettable ones. They forwarded some storylines, but does anyone care about the New Day vs Sheamus, Ridge Holland and Butch any more than they do about Happy Corbin's feud with Madcap Moss? They need to step things up before SmackDown fans treat it like Raw was before Cody showed up, an endurance contest where viewers are subjected to intelligence-insulting angles and bad storylines. As always, the WWE has all the talent it needs, it just seems befuddled at how to use it. What you guys think of SmackDown last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at a WWE Hall of Famer returning to the company. A good news for Devon Dudley as he's headed back to the WWE. You may recall that the Hall of Famer was working as a producer for WWE until health problems, including a stroke and back surgery, forced him to take time off. During his Table Talk podcast, Devon updated fans on what's next for him. I had my stroke in 2019 and WWE gave me the time off to get better, which was great. But then I also just had back surgery and again WWE was very gracious enough to give me the time off to heal and things like that. I'm happy to be able to say that I'll be going back on June 15th. Back to work again. Devon had spinal fusion surgery earlier this year to fuse his L4, L5 and L6 vertebrae, and while he can never wrestle again, he's had a good mind for the business and should be able to help the WWE superstars plan their matches and improve their skills. Massive congratulations to Devon on his WWE return. Next up, a new stable on SmackDown. It's LA Knight, who appears to have gone from wrestling on NXT to managing on SmackDown, slowly building a stable on SmackDown. While the former $1 Million champion hasn't appeared in anything other than dark matches, it looks as if the WWE is testing him out as a manager to help out other wrestlers who have slipped through the cracks of late. Cage side seats and reports, we learned that last week that NXT wrestler LA Knight is trying out for a main roster manager position. He introduced Knight model management in a dark segment after last week's SmackDown. His first client was revealed to be former Retribution member Mace, whose name was seemingly changed to Face. Now this could be good news for Mace, or Face, whose career has been floundering since the WWE dissolved the Retribution faction. Knight was added again last night, April 22nd, at the SmackDown taping when the camera stopped rolling. This time he was accompanied by Mansoor, who's been ignored by WWE Creative for the last 6 months. After dumping on the hometown crowd for a bit, Knight and Mansoor introduced Mace the Face. At this point it's important to remember that nothing's official until LA Knight and his new faction appear on television. Nonetheless, it could be a good step for Mace and Mansoor. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, an AEW star injured again? Now there are conflicting reports coming in regarding AEW star Darius Martin, as Fightful Select reports that the recently returned wrestler is out again due to a leg injury. Darius, who teams with his brother Dante as Top Flight, spent over a year recovering from an ACL tear he suffered in 2021. Wrestling Inc. reports Top Flight was scheduled to face Brian Cage and Casey Navarro on Saturday's Warrior Wrestling 21 event, but Darius is being replaced due to the injury. Despite the report, Darius disputes the story, tweeting, "What I'm currently dealing with had nothing to do with wrestling, but I'm glad everyone else there seems to know more about my health than I do." And finally, Randy Orton breaks character dancing. And last but not least, fans attending last night's SmackDown got to see Randy Orton show off his dance moves after the show finished. Orton, who had just finished serving as a lumberjack for the show's main event, started moving and grooving when Bianca Belair's music played for her dark match that night. As Randy Orton celebrates 20 years on the main roster, it's obvious to fans that the Viper has never been happier than he is right now. Whether his unlikely partnership with Riddle or the renewed sense of energy he's shown in the ring, Orton is at the top of his game with no sign of slowing down. But there you have it guys, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, and a review of last night's SmackDown. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.